There we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a Sixers off-season special. We're streaming to you live on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter page, and the Brock Knows Ball YouTube page as well. We're joined by our man Brock Landis here. As always, I'm one half your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host Scotty. My man, what's going on? We got a lot to talk about. It feels like I've talked about this so much with Scotty over like the last week and a half. All these acquisitions, Paul George, Caleb Martin, etc. And now we get a new voice in here. But also, just a message for you. Don't kill our positivity train this early, bro. It's still only July. Let us live.
Are you projecting? Is that about me? Because I was doing that before the stream started, bro. Is that a subliminal?
Yeah.
I mean, god damn, you dropped the full government as well 20 seconds in. They can find me as Brown. I mean, my digital footprint isn't too hard to track. Yeah, but full government, come on. No,
it's your goddamn Twitter page, bro.
I know. I'm saying my digital footprint is not that hard to track, but on YouTube, you can't be Brock Knows Ball. We don't need to drop the full government. No. I feel like this is definitely overdue. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think it's important to have a space like this where we can have candid conversations about basketball, where they're logical, so it makes sense, like it's stuff people can digest and relate to and go back and forth with, but at the same time, we're all similar in age, we're pretty similar in personality, so it's just good to get together and hear each other's thoughts and go back and forth and bullshit, everything like that. So pretty excited about this opportunity, and like Scotty said before, Dylan, you as well, just glad to link with you guys and do this.
Yeah, man. We got more coming with Brock too, guys. So if you are new to the channel, if you're watching on Brock's page, you're watching on our page, make sure to subscribe to the opposite YouTube channel as well. That's where you can find all of our content, all of Brock's breakdowns. And like we said, when we get together, we got something in the works. You're going to find all of our work together on both YouTube pages. But look, man, let's get into this offseason, right? It's been a busy one. Daryl Morey. I think you think he's crushing it. I hope you think he's crushing it. I don't know. You're taking a couple early jabs at the negativity, the positivity early on here, man. But
Brock Knows Ball, you got to trust.
Yeah. Let's start with the big signing, and that is the 4-year max to Paul George. And one of the talking points that Scotty and I have mentioned and laid out before we get into the player himself, the impact he brings, just how are the Sixers headed in a different direction, a more positive direction than in years past, for the fact that Daryl Morey and company literally laid out a plan. Like, they asked us to be patient. They told Joel Embiid, they pushed off the Tyrese Maxey extension. They asked for everybody's patience. And then a year later, they kind of followed through with what seems like the ultimate goal in the end. Are they headed in a different direction organizationally, franchise-wise, which, if we're being honest, is a franchise not many Sixers fans have trusted for the last 5+ years, building a roster around Joel Embiid? Are they headed in the right direction now when you see this plan kind of come through?
I'm going to actually throw Scotty the lob here because I know Scotty's been very vocal with his support of Daryl throughout the offseason. So, Scotty, you go ahead and then let me go ahead because I have some thoughts.
Yeah, I have been vocal. I've been leading the D-More gang on Twitter, or X, whatever you guys want to call it. I've been trying to start something there just to show some appreciation to Daryl Morey, man, because he received a lot of hate, and I thought a lot of the hate was a little unnecessary. I get not everybody wanted to be patient last year, but he made sure that we did the right thing, put ourselves in the right positions this offseason to go out and do what we needed to do, man. And the bigger thing, even, right, like this is what I was talking to Dylan about earlier this week, or last week, I guess you could say, is not only is he hitting the obvious moves like Paul George, like I could have gone into free agency with all this money and cap space and could have, said, let's go after Paul George and give him the max. Right. I could have decided that. That's not his incredible moves or what makes him a good GM. But I think what makes him a good GM is bringing in guys like Kelly Oubre, getting him back on a team-friendly deal, getting Andre Drummond in here, reading the room there, getting Caleb Martin on a team-friendly deal from a conference rival at that, right? You're taking him from the Miami Heat, from Coach Spoelstra, and bringing him into your unit. And then the drafts. I think the drafts, obviously, this year, still on the outskirts, right? We got to wait and see. Looks good so far. But even in the previous years, getting guys like Ricky Council undrafted, drafting Tyrese Maxey, all of these different things that he's been able to do. There's been a few mishaps mixed in there, holding on to Tobias maybe too long. We don't know Tobias's market though. Like if we look at it at how down we are on Tobias and where we value him, then where's the rest of the league at with him as well? So I don't even know if I can blame him that much for that. The James Harden situation, can you blame him that much for that when James Harden goes to the Clippers and takes like a similar deal that he could have gotten in Philly? I don't know if you can blame him for that. Ben Simmons, can you blame him for a guy that just can't freaking shoot? There's a lot of things to go into there. One of the mishaps, probably like a guy like Isaiah Joe, but then listen to what we're talking about. He loses Isaiah Joe and he brings in all this talent this offseason. I'm excited about it, man, and I feel like Daryl Morey has kind of shifted the culture here without us even really realizing it over the last few years. But it's in our face right now.
Yo, I just have to say the chat is going crazy. We had a Maury Glaze comment, Jared McCain with the nail comment. The chat is going crazy right now.
A dozen of those things.
Scotty, you make great points. So all things considered, this was a great offseason to really evaluate Daryl because everything aligned. You have the draft capital moving forward, whether that be to set up a trade or if he was going to use that this offseason. You have the money that's crucial, and you have the ability to compete for a championship, that window. So what can we bring in here to further our championship window? This was a great offseason for him, not only because you get PG out of his hometown in LA, and you've got to think now, if what PG's saying is true, where LA offered him $30 million a season, that's only $4 more than what Tobias is getting from Detroit.
Yeah. So
that goes to show what that organization thinks of him, and if that's true, very disrespectful. Mm-hmm. I think it's a testament to the pitch that the Sixers gave PG in his crib to get him to move all of his children and his family from LA, the West Coast, where he's born and raised, California kid, and come play in Philly, a city where there's a pretty poor reputation for guys that just play here, the way the fans treat them. So you get PG, you get your co-star to Embiid and Maxey. The reason why I really like what he's done this offseason in addition is because you look at why the Sixers lost in the playoffs last year. You can accredit that to, sure, Embiid's injuries, not being 100% there. Certain factors like the officiating. But what it really comes down to throughout the series, they couldn't play Paul Reed. He was unplayable, minus 44 in the playoffs. So even if Embiid did what he did best, you take him off the floor for 8 minutes. In those 8 minutes, they have a 4-point lead. It's no longer a 4-point lead. They're down 8. You got OG Anunoby, 15 boards. Josh Hart, 17 boards. Rebounding was a crucial problem. And that problem came from the 4 spot in their starting lineup, Tobias. So Paul George, what he gives you offensively is great, but defensively is a defensive rebounder. He finishes possessions and then can start the offense, initiate offense. But now you address the backup 5. So you bring a real backup 5 in there, somebody who can actually take Joel Embiid off of the floor, put him on the floor, and feel comfortable with him being out there doing what he has to do. And you talk about changing the culture. You pry Caleb Martin from Miami. That's a team that's built upon their culture. He comes to Philly and immediately says, I want to be part of the winning culture here. Now, when I saw that, I'm like, the what? I had to do a double take. I'm like, the what?
But, I was like, oh, you got that type of culture? Okay.
But nonetheless, like, that's a very strong offseason. It feels like the Sixers don't usually get the PG and they don't usually get the Caleb Martin. But in years past, like getting James Harden, that was a whole thing in itself. But getting James Harden here in the first place, that's a win. And I think he's done a good job, like building the culture back up. And like you said, Scotty, with all these drafts, like finding Ricky Council undrafted, Paul Reed for his time here in the G, developing in the G League, Jaden Springer developing in the G League. Like that was promising for a point in time. Maxey, where he was drafted, and McCain this year. I think McCain's going to be a great player. Scotty, you like McCain. You watched him plenty. Dylan, I think you'll be high on McCain the more you watch him. So just finding value in the margins, that's crucial to win in the NBA nowadays. And, Daryl is trying to execute what the Sixers brought him here to do, and that's win the championship. He's putting them in a position to do that.
One of the reasons, too, dude, you kind of hit it right on the head when you mentioned Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond. It feels like there's a lot of guys we just haven't had in the past. And if you surround Joel Embiid, you surround Tyrese Maxey with those type of guys that I'm talking energy, I'm talking rebounding, I'm talking just pure hustle and want to. They haven't had that kind of roster. And when you bring in those dudes like an Andre Drummond, who's one of the most efficient rebounders in NBA history, like a Caleb Martin, that comes from that God forbidden Heat culture, right? Wanted to come here. You bring in a guy like that changes the way Sixers basketball, especially with a head coach like Nick Nurse, who can do different things now.
That too.
Defensively, switching wise with all these wings, all this length now, can do a lot of things with this roster, man.
You remember, let me interrupt, but if you remember, Nick Nurse was thinking between Milwaukee and Philly, I believe, when he was looking for a new job, it was between Milwaukee and Philly, and whatever pitch they gave him, whatever promise he liked in Philly, he took that. Think about what the organization was surrounding their guys with before. Shake Milton, he can't get any burn in 2024. Tony Bradley, he's playing in the G. He's playing on the Sixers Summer League.
Korkmaz, baby.
Furkan Korkmaz. They shipped his ass back
out of the league.
Yep. So you know what I mean? Like you're getting value in the margins now. The Martins, the Eric Gordons, the like free agency deadline. You're more of a player now to lure guys to come here. So, hats off after what was pretty irritating last year with what I had to watch some nights.
Some nights, brother. Most nights, and in the biggest moments as well. But all right, let's start with the biggest signing. Paul George, 4 years, $212. What are your thoughts on it, right? Because there are the people that are worried about the age, the money, 3-4 years down the road, what that looks like, how it can hinder the team. The other people, like myself, like Scotty, say, fuck it, let's go try to win a championship with this is your third star. What kind of play? Well, we know what kind of player, but what is Paul George going to bring around Joel Embiid, around Tyrese Maxey to help get the Sixers past the second round? And is the contract worth it for your money?
And I do just want to add something on to that. Yeah. Do you look at Paul George as somebody who can age gracefully in this league?
No. Let's
talk to me.
Let's start here. Let's keep it a stack. Paul George is past his prime, but that's not a bad thing because you're not signing Paul George to be a 28 point per game scorer. So here's what I've noticed with PG. Throughout the season, PG is going to do PG, and what that means is he's going to play his game. There's never going to be a game where PG doesn't see a good shot or doesn't think he can bring the ball up the floor and make something happen. That's never been PG to defer, be shy on the court. So PG is going to do PG. Now, what that translates to is of an 82-game season, hoping he's healthy for if he can replicate last year's 70-plus games, whatever. PG single-handedly is going to win you, I'll say, 6 to 10 games. And what I mean by that is he just takes over third quarter, scores 15 the quarter, whatever, fourth down the stretch. He will single-handedly win you 6 to 10 games, I'm going to predict. All of those other games are going to be pretty typical PG games with the exception of the stinkers because they're bound to happen. Yeah. And what a typical PG game is, which is why it's okay he's past his prime, is 18 to 24, 5 to 10 rebounds, a couple of assists, but a guy who's going to be able to run in the open court with Maxey, finish possessions by grabbing the defensive rebound. So you're not really going to see him boxing out and banging down there, but grabbing the ball off of the glass, and then he can run the break. Or you can give the ball to Maxey, let Maxey bring it up the court, and then you can play through your three guys. You can post PG up. You can pass to him in the corner. You can shoot in the corner. So it's going to be a different role than the role some people are going to be expecting when they think of PG and when they see that dollar amount. But it's okay that he's past his prime. All he has to do is be that co-piece to Embiid, that co-piece to Maxey, where he's going to do all of those things, give you the 18 to 24, whatever, play his role. And he's still going to win you some games single-handedly. But I think it's a fine move, all things considered, because Boston just won the chip. They go out and trade for Drew. They go out and trade for Kristaps. They've got two hell of wings to come at you every single night between Jalen and Jason. Look at what New York just did. New York trades for McCain. Now they're going to have a terrorist lineup with McCain, OG, Julius. They're going to have nothing but bigs in there outside of Brunson. So all things considered, it's a move you have to make if you want to stay afloat in the Eastern Conference. So I'm completely fine with it. And I think PG's going to do his thing at least for 2 years. At least for 2 years, his Carfax should be good.
I love to hear that. And I do think it's something that stuck out to me as I was thinking about PG playing in LA versus playing here in Philly is just having somebody like Maxey who he can just pass the ball out to on a fast break and he can go into the open court. Man, that's just completely different than what he was kind of working with there in LA with a guy like James Harden who will slow the game down a little bit. Don't get me wrong, he can facilitate, but slows the game down a little bit with all his ball handling, pounding the rock. And then Kawhi, same thing, kind of slows the game down a little bit, gets into his spaces. Whereas Maxey, you'll be able to play free for all whenever it's him and Maxey in the game. Maybe Embiid's out at that time. But I do think we could see like a different element of Paul George as well, working that pick and roll with somebody like Embiid and working the pick and pop, those type of actions. I think we could see Paul George really excel there, obviously with his catch and shoot and spot up shooting ability and shooting off the dribble.
That's the thing for me, bro.
I think that's one of the bigger differences we could see.
The range and the catch and shoot efficiency is what gets me. And I think that's is that kind of where you were going when you were talking aging gracefully? Like the fact that he has that in his bag still does it at a high level at 34, where the athleticism is going to go one day. The legs, the knees, they're going to start to go one day. But if he can still shoot the rock at a 40% clip and be somewhat of a viable wing, is he going to look as bad as some people think by the time age 37, 38 rolls around? And if I said it 1,000 times, I'm going to be 30 years old by the time that happens. I'm not worried about that, brother. Yeah, I'm not worried about. I'll worry about that down the road.
We could go tomorrow. You know what I mean? We could go tomorrow. I'm not thinking 4 years. It's not my money.
At least we signed Paul George before I died.
And you know the thing PG gives you, like, aside from just basketball, because, like, no matter what PG does, it's going to be better than what Tobias did. And Tobias still had a role.
Let me ask you this, bro, not to cut you off. Me and Scotty had said this because if I said a bunch of times, if you had Paul George last year against the Knicks, for my money, you win that series, right? But are we doing Paul George a disservice? Are we limiting what Paul George can do, even at age 34, by comparing him to Tobias Harris's replacement?
No. I just think people are looking at it as, like, if Tobias was able to carve out a role with Embiid and Maxey, who are going to dribble and score and shoot a lot, if Tobias could carve out a role where he's going to get 12 to 15 shots and a couple of them are going to be big catch and shoots late game and he's going to have to switch and guard other teams' best wings, I think people are looking at it as like, well, if they had this guy doing that and he was ass, what do you think is going to happen when you put a real competent all-star, 9-time all-star, 6-time all-NBA there? So, like, PG does everything Tobias didn't do. Tobias couldn't finish possessions with rebounding. Tobias couldn't get above the rim to catch a lob to get the crowd on their feet. Tobias couldn't deliver late game down the stretch with a catch and shoot three. Those are all things PG can do. But basketball aside, I think it's good to just have another guy in the locker room who can be, I'm not saying he's an alpha, but capable of, like, if he really had to be, being an alpha and, like, yo, I've earned my stripes. I can hold you accountable. I think it's important to have a personality like that when the going gets tough. Like, Tobias is going to fold when the going gets tough. PG is notorious for doing that in the playoffs, but, you know, I still trust PG with these guys next to him to kind of play a different role where he can be like, look, I don't have to be the man. On some nights I will be, but on these nights where I don't have to be the man, just be a steady hand.
Right. I mean, dude, because people keep looking specifically last year. Like, I know Paul George has had his shortcomings in the postseason, but people go back to last year, like a 33-point game against Dallas, but then he had like a 13-point game on horrible shooting, and they go to the inconsistent numbers. But I look at this specifically last year and his time in LA. You never, ever, ever, and I know we have Joel Embiid, so who the hell am I to critique or criticize another player's health, right? But you never, ever, ever, over the last 4 or 5 years, have a healthy Kawhi Leonard come playoff time. Last year, Kawhi goes down. The guy next to Paul George is James Harden. Well, if Paul George has playoff shortcomings, what the fuck does this guy have? Okay? So you look at it from that perspective. You have age 33, age 34, Paul George. basically being the number one scoring option for the Los Angeles Clippers in a deep, deep Western Conference last year. That's not the role at all. Like, again, we need Joel to be healthy, but even if he's not, like, you have Paul George here as some nights a second, yeah, possibly some nights a first, God forbid, but on most nights a third option where if he can average 20 points per game on 40% three-point shooting, it's well worth the fucking contract at that point, man.
So look at it like this. The Sixers have their killer. They have their Jason Voorhees, their killer. Embiid can go drop 51 on you. Like the dude can go drop 51 on anybody whenever he feels like it. They have their killer. Every killer needs an accomplice. They've got that in Maxey. And Maxey, some big moments down the stretch in the series against New York. I think he's a little more battle tested. It's good that he got those reps. So now he knows moving forward, in addition to all the improving he's going to do, he can take over games late down the stretch. So they have their two guys to do that, right? Now you add PG to that equation. PG doesn't have to be a killer. PG doesn't have to be the accomplice. All he has to do, like I said, is be PG. Play that role at his age now where he can give you the 18 to 24 on good efficiency, rebound, run the break, initiate the offense, defend at a very high level. So now you've got a beautiful point and center combo with this anchor on the wing. It doesn't get much harder to fill out around those two guys. All you need is one snipe, and you just throw somebody out there, Ricky Council, KJ, go play defense, bro. Just go play defense. Don't dribble the fucking ball. Don't shoot. Just play defense and roll to the basket.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I think even when you look at Embiid, the situation there, keeping him healthy, Paul George and then also Andre Drummond is going to help keep him healthy. Maybe he doesn't have to play as many games throughout the regular season. Because I think with Embiid, man, I know the NBA has implemented all these rules for stars having to play games on certain nights and so on, so forth. But obviously there's ways around that. If Embiid's having some knee soreness, he's having some knee soreness, you sit him out on the back end of a back-to-back. And I think that's what we're kind of setting ourselves up for here as well. Not to say that Embiid's just going to voluntarily sit out of games, but more or less if he's feeling any type of nudge or any type of, tightness in the knee, in the back, whatever the case may be, you now have a team out there that can go get you a W if you need to, or consecutive Ws. And I think, once again, they're just preparing to take even the load off of Embiid when he's in the game, right? Maybe Embiid doesn't have to average 35 this year or 33 this year, right? Maybe he can just average 30 or 28 and Maxey give you 25 and PG give you 22 or 23 or 20 even, right? So I think you can take a little bit of the stress off of Embiid just by having Paul George there as that third option even.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, Embiid's going to average 35 by accident. He's showing up and playing three quarters. The dude's going to average 35. But I thought about this when you were saying that, just about easing the load on him. And let's say Drummond gets the start. Think about the lesser of two evils last year when Embiid didn't play between Paul Reed or Mo Bamba. They were both equally unplayable. And if the Sixers did win a game, it was like miraculously Maxey had to score 40 or Tobias out of nowhere scored 30. Whereas this year, Drummond gets the start, and I don't want to advertise Drummond as like a phenomenal center. He's a good defensive player. He can grab rebounds offensively. Is limited to all basket work, but he's still going to give you like 10, 12, 14, 18, whatever on two-point work. Daryl Morey drafted another center, another big body, athletic, can move his feet from what it seems, can score around the basket to back Drummond up. So now you legitimately have a three-deep rotation at the center position. So if Embiid is to miss a game, you're comfortable with your two-man rotation at center, whereas last year, both of your backup bigs were equally unplayable at that position.
Yeah. Edem Bona, man, he's been showing a lot in that summer league, the first two games. Even at the free throw line, like just at the end of last game, was able to hit 2 free throws to tie the game. One. Yeah, just he's aggressive on the glass. He's aggressive protecting the glass, right? That's the biggest thing for me on the defensive end. His mentality, I really like him. So, yeah, I agree, man. They're building that depth up right behind Embiid right there, man.
Yeah. Listen, man, you know what? I'm tired of this interview style. All right, so I'm gonna throw this to Brock Knows Ball. We talked about the big one. It's Paul George, obviously. Duh. What's your next? Give us your next favorite, your favorite signing so far, most important signing so far besides Paul George, and why?
It's got to be Caleb Martin. Yeah, I like that they upgraded the backup five. Like it's crucial. I like that they were able to retain Kelly Oubre. I think the Eric Gordon move is a nice 8th man, 9th man to play, but it's got to be Caleb Martin, if not PG, just because Caleb Martin, I can't emphasize this enough, is not a signing the Sixers usually get, let alone to get him from Miami, come play in the same conference. They're
multi-year deal.
Multi-year deal, which was crucial. 4 years. He's still pretty young, so they lock him up as part of this core. I like his mentality a lot. Just from watching Caleb play for Miami, he's the type of player who it doesn't matter who's in front of him. It doesn't matter who's on his team. He's just going to ball out. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's got like sneaky bounce. He's got a sneaky offensive game. So there are going to be some games where he's going to do something. I can't believe he just took off like that. Or, wow, Caleb Martin just dropped 20. I didn't think he had that in him. But really what he is a 3-and-D. He's a high-level 3-and-D. He's going to be able to hit a big shot for you and defend at a high level. But what's most important is he doesn't care about who's in front of him. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if he's checking Jason Tatum or if he's checking the backup wing on Charlotte, whoever that I can't think off the top of my head, whatever. He's just there to hoop. And the Sixers have this positionless lineup. You shouldn't look at it as like point, shooting, small forward, it's positionless. So what they're going to be able to do is run through their 3 guys, keep Caleb on the wing or in the corner, knock down that shot, and defensively he can really guard like 1 through 4. Yeah. So I think that's a huge signing. It's big for versatility, and it just gives them flexibility to plug and play and run some different lineups.
Yeah, man.
How similar or different, or is he better than Kelly Oubre in your opinion? Like, how do you view those 2 players side by side? Like, who is the better player or better fit in your opinion, or are they just very similar?
I mean, he's much better defensively.
He's better. He's better defensively. Kelly can make like big plays on the defensive end, the block and the swat. You guys remember that last year? Yeah. I just think he's probably a better shooter than Oubre. Now, granted, Oubre took like a what do they call those deals where you try to get your market value up for a year? What do they call those deals? A bet on yourself deal. Like Oubre took a bet on yourself deal last year, bet on himself, got rewarded. Now he's trying to stay longer term with the Sixers, right? So Oubre might come in a different player this year because the Sixers might have got him in the facility and we're like, yo, we got PG. We know what Maxey and Embiid are going to do this offseason. No bullshit, no dribbling, no layup package, strictly catch and shoot. Get in the lab, get your catch and shoot. Like they might have told him that, so he might come in a different player this year than he was on a bet on yourself deal last year. I like Caleb more just because I think he does more at a higher level than Kelly does. But again, like they're pretty similar, so it might be redundant to have both of them in the starting lineup. That's why I was tweeting like my hypothetical 5s and people were getting furious. Woj said Kelly's the starting 2. Kelly's the starting 2. He's signed. He's the starting 2. But, like, think about it. What is Caleb Martin in your lineup to do? Shoot threes and defend. Switch. Yeah. Shoot threes and switch on defense.
Yeah.
What is Kelly Oubre in the lineup to do?
The same. Yeah.
Shoot threes and switch on defense. But Caleb probably does that at a higher level. So I don't necessarily know that you need to start Kelly. I think Kelly could come off the bench and juice the offense with Jared McCain. I think that could be more beneficial for their squad. And then at that 2 spot, maybe you sign a guy, maybe you sign someone like Lowry. He starts and Maxey is like the theoretical 2. I don't know what it looks like, or they could just rock out with Kelly because he does have good size. But in my opinion, I think Caleb is probably the better player. But I am not counting out the fact that Kelly could come into this season with maybe a refined skill set or a refined mentality.
Kelly probably just does a little bit more with the ball in his hands and on the floor, right? Like Caleb Martin's a slightly better 3-point shooter, especially in bigger moments, better defender, but Kelly can probably do a little bit more offensively with the rock in his hands.
I don't even know about that. Because like I saw Kelly just like dribble into a lot of drives where
listen, hey. No one said his decision making was great.
He
Me and
throws
Scott
that
thinks
off
a lot about his decision making.
he could kind of hit the midi and like he caught some bodies, like he took off and caught some bodies.
No one said
But,
Kelly's
like,
decision making is always on par.
If Kelly's on the floor, realistically, if Oubre's on the floor with Maxey, PG, and Embiid, it's the same thing I said earlier. Like, don't fucking put the ball on the floor, dude. You don't have to. There are too many guys who can create their own shot and dribble. If you're Kelly Oubre, just shoot the ball and switch on defense. That's all we need you to do.
Now, do you think, like, thinking about Ricky Council, because I saw people asking about Ricky Council, can Ricky Council get into the playoff rotation, so on and so forth? Does a guy like that's development kind of maybe determine if Kelly Oubre starts or not? I guess roster construction, obviously, as well, like whoever you fill out these last couple roster spots with. But I'm just curious, like if Ricky Council can get into consistent minutes or consistently in the rotation, maybe that allows a guy like Kelly Oubre to start. Or maybe you go with Ricky Council in the starting lineup just because he could feed off of those better players a little bit more, whereas like Kelly Oubre can get his own buckets with the second unit. So that's an interesting thought as well that I'm having here. And then I did just want to pull up this comment here because I think this is kind of what you were pointing to earlier. Positionless. Like, don't look at Caleb Martin as a power forward. Just look at him as a forward or a wing. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to guard 1 through 3, 1 through 4, depending on the matchup. So maybe it is Martin versus
Let me
Josh
throw this
Hart.
at you too, man. We've relied so much on Joel just being the anchor defensively. He hasn't had a lineup like this, a rotation like this, where guys can just switch and defend out on the perimeter. What can Nick Nurse do with this defense now, bro? Now that Joel can do a lot more now than just have to sit back and protect.
I mean, defensively, everybody does the same shit. Like, everybody has the same schemes defensively.
Right.
All Nick Nurse has to do is get these guys to buy into their role. Get these guys to buy into their role and do that at a high level. You know, I keep going back to Tobias because he was like, I hated watching Tobias.
It's okay, man. We pick on him a lot too.
We do, but like I would watch this guy at 6'8", not fight through screens with any conviction, just like get blown up on a screen at 6'8", and he's supposed to be your perimeter defender. That's not going to happen with PG. That's not going to happen with Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's not a defensive stopper. PG is, but all Nick Nurse has to do is get these guys to buy into defending at a high level. And the way they'll buy in is, look, our defense is our identity because we can turn defense into offense. You turn a team over, Maxey and PG can run in the open court. Both of them are very skilled in the open court. You turn a team over, that's going to lead to points and scoring and offense for the Sixers. So if you can get these dudes to buying into, if your defense is your identity and your defense is going to turn into offense, then I think it's fine. But you know, there's only so much as like scheme that they can get creative with because all these teams run the same stuff. But it's going to be a positionless lineup. And in my opinion, that's closer to what a championship blueprint is like in the modern NBA than with a traditional point and a traditional 4 and a traditional, you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you, bro. That was the other thing I was thinking about too, because I know like in one world, you want to build your team how you want to build it, how you see fit, what guys you want to put around Joel. But you have to at some point take a step back and look at what are your roadblocks specifically in the Eastern Conference. Well, one of them just won the title. One of them just won their 18th title. And what do they look like, right? And what does the team that just knocked you out look like? And what did they add? Milwaukee's going to get healthier. What do they look like? At some point, you have to put aside maybe how exactly your vision is to build this team and go, how can I compete with that team? How can I get over that hump? Because that is going to be the goal. And that's kind of the direction it looks like they've gone. Now, it also just happens to be that these are just talented basketball players, which is something we've just lacked in the past. It's like we've had so many non-NBA rotation guys having to come out and elevate their games come playoff time. And it's like, it's not the case right now, man. It's like,
I just want to address something I see going on in the chat. Because listen, I'm not going to take a stance here and say I'm an ally with Knicks 100 a game. But who's been doing a good job commenting the whole stream. Shout out whoever you are, bro. Shout out you. Kelly Oubre didn't do shit guarding Jalen Brunson, bro. Yeah. Maybe games 1 and 2 when JB shot a combined 16 of 44, but they didn't do shit with Brunson. The dude was dropping 40 balls on everybody out there.
It's what you said earlier, man, because Oubre, he makes those impact plays on the defense. Like, he might have glassed Jalen Brunson once or twice in the series or something, but he is like that. He's almost like a phantom defender. Like, he looks like he's getting down in his stance, and then all of a sudden the dude's blown by him. So, like, he isn't like that on the defensive end. When he applies himself, and you have to hope that having guys like PG and Caleb Martin around him, that he'll apply himself at all times on that end of the floor. But he was like, he'll do the whole arm wave and shit. He does all the theatrics when he makes a big play, which you love. You love him getting the crowd involved in all of that. I'm not dissing him for that. I don't think he's as good of a defender as it may appear to the casual fan that, is looking for those bigger plays to be made on the defensive end.
Listen, Jalen Brunson,
possession by possession.
Jalen Brunson gave everybody on that squad smoke.
Every single play.
He gave smoke to everybody on that squad, bro. And Embiid got it, Tobias got it, Maxey got it. Didn't nobody stop Jalen Brunson in that series.
The shit hurt. It hurt. It was painful. Painful to watch.
All right, Dylan, you're playing host, bro. I feel bad. How about I play host to you and ask?
Go ahead, bro.
How about I play host to you and ask what you think of the rotation, the lineup, what you're looking forward to, the draft picks, anything, bro?
I mean, they still got to fill out the rest of the roster because as pretty as the starting 5 might look, that the bench don't look it right now. Obviously, you filled out the biggest need, which was the backup 5. Eric Gordon, 40% three-point shooter, still at this point of his career. I like Jared McCain's game. He might have a role. We don't know if Ricky Council has a role. You still have to get those vet minimums and put those out and put those to use, whether it is Kyle Lowry. I'm indifferent on Marcus Morris. I don't know if Marcus Morris has a role on a deep, playoff type of run as a backup forward or not, backup winger or not. But Kyle Lowry
the Cavs played him. The Cavs played him, but his ass got cooked by Paulo.
Yeah, and where'd that get the Cavs, brother? Not anywhere. Not to the promised land.
Well, apparently the other option, according to Michael KB, is Robert Covington. So
I'm good on both of them, bro. I'll go play power forward.
Give me somebody young in there, man.
Besides that, like, this is, I know we kind of talk ourselves into it. You said it before the show, like, it's July, man. This is all where hypotheticals play out. This is where every team feels like they have a chance at winning it all, etc. This is by far, on paper at least, the best roster, the best, fit around Joel Embiid as a whole. You had the backup big where it doesn't look like you're going to get crushed in the 7 to 9 minutes that he's off the floor come playoff time. Maxey develops. Paul George as that wing between them is a perfect complementary piece. Like, we always sit here and we talk, Mikal Bridges is a perfect fit. This is Paul George. Yeah, he's 34 years old. Yeah, he's getting a bag out of Max. But Paul George is a perfect fit between your point guard and your big fella. You bring in a guy like Caleb Martin, you talked about, Kelly Oubre coming back, falling in love with the game of basketball in Philly. I'm ready to be heard again, if you haven't noticed. I'm ready to talk myself into this team contending with the likes of the Eastern Conference.
You ever seen the meme where people are like, my expectations were already low, but God, like, you can't hurt me. You can't hurt me at this point, bro. You can't hurt me, but it is fun. And this is why I said, like, this was a critical season, off season to evaluate Morey, because this is where everything aligned. You have the championship window. You have the opportunity to make noise in the East. You have the financial freedom. So all you can do is do right by the big fella, because they've really never done right by him.
Yeah.
Do right by the big fella, put the right pieces around him, and hope your guys go out and execute. But that's all it comes down to is, like,
it's the first time in his career he's on a roster without Tobias Harris or Jahlil Okafor. That's mind-boggling to me. That's even a fact.
That's
But
an NBA prison sentence right there.
Like, here's what I'll ask you, man. Like, clearly, the way they went out last year and the way last season ended, it seems like they're so far away. But if you go back, if the Sixers, yeah. But if you go back to the pre-Embiid injury, this team was on a 60-win pace. Like and they were knocking down. I know it's regular season ball. I get it, man. But on the road at home, they were knocking off contender after contender. Minnesota, Oklahoma City, the Clippers, the Lakers. No. But they were a good team.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Bro, they were a good team pre-Embiid injury. And my point is, you give the best player in the world when healthy, this crew with an ascending Tyrese Maxey, they have that's why I'm excited. They have a legitimate chance to get to heights they haven't in the last 22, 23 fucking years.
No, that's true. That's true. And I'm not even saying they were a bad team. They smoked teams in the regular season. All you have to do, Embiid, Jokic is up in the straw vote for MVP. He'll say, what the
bro, I'm saying 60-win pace, like they were a damn good team.
Yeah, like so the reason why I'm numb now is like, dude, they can win 82 games in the regular season. I won't give unless you win 15 in May and June, bro. You gotta show me something. So I like their chances. They're doing right by the big guy. This was the first offseason probably in his career where they actually did right by him. They got him the right pieces. They got him a squad. Now it's up to him. Stay healthy. Let's have this conversation. Let's revisit this again in May or June. But
you gotta. I agree. Me and Scotty agree with you 1,000%. But we are going to go on a long journey together, doing this, kind of almost day in and day out, where we do have to care about the regular season. We can't get over exaggerative with it. We can't take a January win and start looking ahead to April and May. But the regular season will matter when it comes to this team a little bit.
Yeah, the one thing I'll just conclude this point with. I'll just play devil's advocate. Embiid was 33 game in the series against the Knicks?
Leading scorer, yeah.
Game 5 was the game where Maxey bailed Embiid and the Sixers out.
Yeah.
I agree.
Single-handedly saved Embiid's legacy because that dude was pressing, bro.
9 turnovers, I know.
And Embiid was pressing, and Maxey single-handedly saved his legacy. And it was the typical story. Here we go. It's the playoffs, and look who folded, bro. Look who folded. Maxey stepped up and saved his legacy in that game. Mm-hmm. Who else is notorious for showing up, or rather not showing up in the offs, is playoff P. Where's Waldo? Playoff P. So where I think the Sixers' bright spot is the player that's wearing number 0 on his jersey. Is Maxey. I think Maxey has a chance to take both of these dudes further than they've ever been.
Listen, it's fair. It's fair to have all these questions. And the man to my right loves that more than anybody. In the comments or watching right now.
I've proposed at a certain point, and I'm not saying it's the answer, but just giving Maxey the keys during the regular season, let him build, let him develop, let him run the team. Embiid's going to get his 30 regardless. And then you get to the postseason, it's the Embiid show. I know you can't turn it on and off like that. Like, you can't just have it white and black like that. But I'm speaking just from an idea standpoint. Give Maxey the keys. He's the young gun. He can go out there. He's going to be able to lead this team in the regular season to wins and develop in the same time to become that guy. Maybe it's more in the playmaking department, whatever the case may be. And then just allow Embiid. I know it's not Embiid's nature to like take a back seat, but I am wondering if that is the answer to the Sixers' issues. Like, 1, getting Embiid through the season healthy, and then 2, preparing them for the postseason where, like you said, Maxey might have to answer the call quite a few times.
The way Joel's talking, he's been waiting for this day almost.
Right.
I could just be hitting posturing in the offseason. But
you see him in the USA practice. It looks like he's facilitating from at the top of the key. He's getting those passes to Curry, to LeBron. I mean, I think that's another learning process for him this summer.
So where I did see some growth in Embiid's game, like a little more maturity, can't remember the games exactly, but whatever it was, like Embiid in game 1 or 2, I think it was game 1 in the fourth down the stretch, Embiid was really struggling. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2. Maybe it was 1.
It was probably 2 because he got hurt in 1. But wait, no, he came back. He came back in 1.
Whatever game it was early in the series, and Embiid was just doing everything he could to outdo his last possession. So last possession was a miss. He was doing everything he could to outdo that. This has to go. This has to go. And that's the mentality you like. Like, that's how you want your lead guy to be, but wouldn't give the ball up. The Sixers wouldn't run anything through Maxey. No pick and rolls, just straight face up Embiid shoot. And it wasn't working. And eventually throughout the series, it got to the point where Embiid late game wasn't pressing. He was instead deferring to Maxey. He'd give Maxey the ball, dribble handoff, or let's run the pick and roll, whatever. Just get the ball in Maxey's hands because Maxey's going to be able to do this. That's what I noticed last year. Now, they could be because Embiid was hurt. And like you said, Scotty, MVP. He'll have the gold medal aura. He'll get his aura up by winning the gold medal. Like, Embiid's probably not going to be the guy to take a backseat, but I don't think he has to. I don't think he has to. Like, with Boston, you can run through Jaylen Brown. You can run through Jason Tatum. You still need Derek White to hit big shots. You still need Kristaps to give you a huge game. Denver, you can run through Jokic. You still need MPJ to execute. You still need Jamal Murray to have a good game. So you can run through Embiid. You can do that and still run as they've done for 5-6 years, but you need Maxey to be in rhythm. You need PG to pick his spots and get efficient baskets and defend. So I just think that starts with, on day one, there has to be a mutual trust in each other and a mutual understanding of, Embiid's the guy, but Maxey's also the guy, and PG is also the guy. And they have to figure out how to play off of one another.
No, I think that's a great point. And that's what's going to win you a championship. Like, when we're talking about it, Embiid being the guy or Maxey being the guy and making it black and white, that's not what's going to win you a championship. What's going to win you a championship is all three of these guys knowing that they are all three the leaders of the team, and ultimately contributing in that fashion. And then having the guys within the margin step up and hit big shots, whether that's Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin, so on and so forth.
In this day and age, this style of basketball, the jury is still out. Like, as much as we want to believe in, when healthy, the best player in the world, because that's what he is for my money. But can you win a chip when your best player, when your focal point is a 7-foot center? Like, the jury's still out on that. We haven't even been past the second round. But when you guys talk about Tyrese Maxey, when you talk about Paul George picking their spots, I think that's where it comes into play. Like, okay, your best player can be your 7-foot center. He can be the most dominant force on the floor for 3.5 quarters. And I'm not saying he's not touching the ball late. I'm not saying he's getting an ISO. I'm not saying nothing. But when things get tight in a 2 or 3 point ball game with 55 seconds to go, and Boston or New York or whatever sends the kitchen sink Joel's way, there's at least, we'll just put Maxey in this because I know how someone below me feels about playoff P in big situations. There is, at least is another guy, a prototypical point, a wing that can put the ball on the floor, that can create, can get his own, and give you a big time bucket. Maxey did it in game 5, like Brock was talking about this past year against the Knicks, man. But like, that's the thing. Like, that's why this roster being built this way, I have a light at the end of the tunnel, because we didn't know. We still don't know if you can just force feed Joel the rock and he's going to be able to get off. He's going to be able to get to his spot in crunch time in a 7-game series all the way through. You don't necessarily need to. Joel can still give you 30, 35, 50 on any given night. But in those final 2 minutes, when it ain't there, when you can't get him the ball on the block, when you can't get him the ball at his spot, there's another guy or two that can go and win you a game in crunch time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that Embiid isn't a top 5 player in the NBA, but if you look at the direction the NBA is going, all of the dudes that played deep in the playoffs this year, young, electric, blow by guards, 3-level scorers, can bring the ball up the court, get to any spot on the floor. The ball starts in their hands. The exception is Jokic. And I guess, Luke is pretty big for a point, but think about the direction the league's going in. Tyrese Halliburton, SGA, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson. In my opinion, Tyrese Maxey is just as good, if not better, potentially, than any of those guys. So why hinder that growth? Why run through PG late game? Why force feed Embiid late game if you don't, you know what I mean? You can't hinder Maxey's growth because, in my opinion, although you can't dispute Embiid's top 5, I think Maxey's got just as high of a ceiling.
No,
I wanted to know what the ceiling was for me. I wanted to know what your ceiling was for Maxey. I've taken the top off. I've taken the top off of Maxey.
Like Sketch, bro. Sketch took the top off. Shout out Sketch. Nah, we're not playing. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I'm not exactly saying Maxey's got top 5 potential. You know, top 5 is like it changes, but in the playoffs this year, Ant-Man played like a top 5 player. SGA played like a top 5 player. Jalen Brunson. So if he can just play like a top 5 player when it matters most, why can't he be just as good as any of these other dudes?
So
seriously.
I'm listening to all of this, and it brings me to a point because it sounds like we need another scorer, or do we need more of a facilitator? I'm curious what y'all think, because I've talked with Dylan about this a couple times, and I'm still on the fences. There's a lot of talk about the 4. We saw it in the comments earlier. Do they need another power forward to rebound, play defense? Do you need another guard to match Maxey on the playmaking and creating for him as well? Or where do you view the need right now? Do you need another scorer off the bench? What should they be looking for? And maybe it is you haven't given up any of your assets that are tradable. So maybe it is via trade, maybe not during the offseason, but as we approach the trade deadline.
I just think it has to be a high-level player. It doesn't really matter at what position. I don't think Kelly Oubre played that great in the playoffs, playoffs. Yeah. I don't think he played that great, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like I said, he could have a refined mentality. But the reason I say that is because you just need another guy when those 3 don't have it going to step up and do something for you and make a play or change the game or come into the game and change the game. There's only so much Drummond can do at the 5. I don't think Ricky Council's that player, at least not yet. Jared McCain could be that guy. It could end up being McCain, but I still think you just need another high-level guy. Where I'm going back and forth in this is what can't Maxey do and what hasn't Maxey proven he can't do? He's played the point. He's already shown he can play make. He can get a bucket at each level. He can take over a game late. Defensively, he's taken some matchups personally and surprised you on that end of the floor. So I am just going to give Maxey always the benefit of the doubt and assume there's nothing he can't do. So why can't Maxey be your point, right? And the reason I say that is because you still need somebody to PG, for example. They bring PG to the ball. PG is the guy who's going to start in the corner on the wing and come to the ball and then get into his offense, right? PG will use that to take his defender up there, backdoor cut, wide open going to the basket. You need somebody from the top of the key to make that pass when it's wide open. And B, deep post positioning. Somebody has to make that entry. PG posts up. Somebody has to make that entry. And PG in LA, they ran a lot of actions with Kawhi or with LA's big, whether it be Zubats or Plumlee, whoever, Daniel Tice, where down low, I'll set the scene. Let's say it's just Joel and PG. PG 6'8", that's tough to match up with. Joe's going to have a center on him. So what they're going to do is PG is going to come off of an Embiid screen. They might switch that. Now Embiid has a little guy on him down low. That's a mismatch. You have to make the entry there. Or PG comes to the ball with a mismatch on him. He has to get the ball immediately so he can attack the basket. I say that because you might need a point guard on the floor to make these entries, to deliver the ball to these guys in the right spot. But Maxey could be capable of that as well. So I don't know if it's a point guard they need. I don't know if it's a traditional – I I see y'all laughing because Ginson here talking about Ben Simmons, bro.
That's his man, bro.
He's banned. Gint is banned, bro. He's banned. But hey, like Bruce Brown in an ideal world is a great fit for what they need right now.
How do you feel about Karis LeVert?
Say that again.
How do you feel about Karis LeVert? Not good.
He's a thoroughbred scorer, Karis LeVert.
Yeah.
But I don't exactly know. Like, what's that?
He averaged 5 assists. I know the assists don't speak for playmaking ability.
He's
he had 5.
You have to address what everybody's strong suit is, and then everything else they do is a plus. So Karis LeVert's strong suit is scoring. Yeah. And then you have to consider if he's in a closing lineup with Maxey, PG, and Embiid, and you figure Caleb Martin's the shooter, what is Karis LeVert doing?
Yeah. I feel
really what I want is
you're
a guy
talking through it, and you're killing my Gary Trent Jr. dream.
I don't want Gary Trent Jr.
You're killing my Gary Trent Jr.
You already have your shooters. Now you can't have enough shooting, but
he could score a little bit more off the.
But you don't need a scorer. I don't think you need a scorer.
Off my bench, I do a little bit. I got Eric Gordon at age 45.
That's Jared McCain. That's what Jared McCain's supposed to do.
You think Jared McCain's getting that role right now today?
Why can't he?
I'm not saying he can't. I'm hopeful he can. I just don't know if that's part
Jared McCain is going to have to earn his stripes, but he's good enough. Like, Jared McCain is a winning player. So what I mean by that is his strong suit. I said you have to address the player's strong suit. His strong suit is that he is a scorer. 14 a game at Duke, 41% from beyond the arc. He can make his free throws. So Jared McCain is a scorer. He can play make a little bit, but he's a scorer. Everything else he gives you in addition to that is a plus. The winning plays, diving on the ground for a loose ball, coming off the ball, getting the ball, making a play for somebody else, bringing intensity, throwing the ball off of a player's leg to save a possession. Like, those are winning plays, and for that reason, you can't keep him off of the court. So he might not be able to start with Maxey because they're the same size.
Yeah.
He could eventually, who knows, but as of right now, he's not going to start because they're the same size. But a guy like that, you can't keep him off of the court. So he's going to play 15, 18, 20 minutes. And what's he going to do in those minutes? He's going to score. He's a bucket.
I'm with you. That's fair by all accounts. I was just looking at this rotation as he's an unknown. He's a unknown in the sense that Nick Nurse might not give him that leash at first. And right now you're looking at a bench of Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond as your solidified role players. But
to me, like, Ricky Council is the unknown.
All right.
But Jared McCain, like, I'm almost certain.
Right.
If Kelly Oubre is not starting, he will, in theory, be the 6th man. Andre Drummond is your 7th just because that's the first sub. You take Embiid out.
Yeah.
Who's the 8th man? It's going to be Jared McCain. But McCain is going to do more than any of them. McCain's going to be leaned on as a scorer more, in my opinion, than Drummond.
So do you think he's going to get the nod over Eric Gordon?
Well, I think Eric Gordon is more one-dimensional.
He's going to get the nod.
Eric Gordon's an old man. He's still got some bounce. Like, he'll dunk and you'll be like, what the hell? He'll dunk, but he's a snipe. He's a snipe. Like, that's all Eric Gordon is supposed to be doing, is just shooting the rock.
Yeah.
Jared McCain can actually score at each level. And if you watch the first Summer League game, he scored 15 points on all 2-point work, and he didn't shoot great. So the way I see it is, this guy can get to the basket with his speed whenever. He's a good enough finisher. He gave you 15 on all 2-point work, no threes. If he does what he's actually supposed to do, which is also shoot the 3 ball, because he's a good 3-point shooter, let's say he makes a minimum of 2.
Yeah.
6 points right there in addition to the 15, all the paint work. That's a 20-point game in limited minutes, right? And if
I hear you, I'm with it.
Like, in college, he had 7 games with 4 more threes, including 2 games with 8 3 balls. The guy can shoot. So let's say he gives you 6 2-point baskets. That's 12, and he gives you 4 threes. That's another 12. That's a 24-point game.
Yeah.
Out of your 16th pick.
Yeah.
So I don't see Oubre giving you 6 bets. I don't see Oubre giving you 6 baskets inside of the perimeter and 4 outside of them.
That's a good way to put it, man.
I don't see Eric Gordon doing that. I don't see Ricky Council doing that. The only guy off of the bench I see doing that right now is Jared McCain.
Yeah.
Not that Kyle Lowry's doing that at this point, but to Gint's point, does that change the thought process of the rotation if Lowry's brought back on a minimum off the bench?
Lowry is a high-level player. So I don't think it changes anything. Lowry is the type of player I think they're looking for, because Lowry's not the – you saw last year. Lowry's cool scoring 6 a game.
6, yeah.
As long as he can contribute to winning by doing the dirty work, getting on the glass for a guard, screening for his other backcourt mate, diving on the ground, getting the guys in the right spots, organizing the shit. He's cool playing that role. So I don't think it changes anything. I'm very high on Jared McCain, if you couldn't tell. I'm
glad you brought some positivity to the goddamn show.
I think Jared McCain's a really good player. I think he's a winning player.
I do agree with that. And, obviously watching him at Duke fit in with those high-level players as well, I think he's going to fit in seamless with whoever he plays with. I guess my skepticism on his contributions in his rookie year is just from the situation. But I do get your point. Like, who else off the bench is going to do these things? Yeah. It's just that stigma, and maybe I'm reading into too much of narratives put out there by fans on Twitter. Doc. Right? Like at the end of the day, one of the things about Nick Nurse that we kept hearing about from Raptors fans is how he doesn't like to play young guys. He's going to go to his veterans or the more experienced players before he goes to those young guys. So that's honestly where my skepticism comes in from Jared McCain, because I do believe, like, if you start this season giving Jared McCain like 10, 15 minutes a game, he's going to be ready by the time you get to the postseason for that role. And I think it is a good move, because this isn't a guy that's going to burn out by the end of the season either. He's a young guy. So I love the idea. I'm not 100% sure that he's going to get those rotational minutes, at least early.
So I see Darius makes a good comment that situational too depends on the caliber of the young guy. Like, the way I see this as, he will be a starter. Like, there's no question. Within a year or two, he will be a starter. But I kind of look at it as like Naz Reid was great for Minnesota, like changed games for Minnesota. He won the 6th man of the year. That's where they kept him the whole year. Ty Hero for Miami, balling out in the 6-man role. That's where they keep him. He comes in, he changes the game. So I see McCain in that role as like, look, you're not going to start, but you're going to get every opportunity and every shot you want with this second unit, and that's where you're going to be all year. So as long as you know your role, you're coming into the game, you're changing the pace of the game or the flow of the game, you're just trying to get on the board, whatever. But, McCain is a guy in my eyes who can score at all 3 levels, mid-range, especially around the basket. He's a surprisingly good finisher. The 3-point shot is the appeal to his offensive game. He can make plays, like good reads, so he can play make, and he makes winning plays. So I don't see how you could keep a guy like that off of the floor and out of the rotation.
Yeah, and it could be a guy at the end of the day.
No, we got to wrap it up. It's an hour. We've been doing this for a second. I just want to check the temperature on everybody that's watching, because our chat's been lit. If this is something that you would like to see expanded in person, if this is something where you want to see us in person, get together, set up a couple of mics or just a roadcaster, invest in a good camera. If this is something you want to see done in person on a, I guess, regular basis, weekly basis, please let me know right now. Let us know so we don't bullshit anymore and we actually get on this.
Let us hear it.
By the way,
let us know. Drop a comment right now. Interact. Please, please, please. Let's see what we get.
There it is. There's 135 of you in here right now. Go subscribe to the YouTube channels. Go subscribe to Brock Knows Balls YouTube channel. Go subscribe to DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. It's the best spot for the content. And by the way, it's the only spot to get this pulled up on the screen. Whatever's going on with StreamYard and Twitter, if you're watching on Twitter, we appreciate you. We cannot see your comments if you're trying to comment through StreamYard. So make sure you tap in and you subscribe to both YouTube channels, because that's where we'll be posting all of our episodes when we do end up getting together in the coming weeks here. And just so you know, Brock Knows Ball. Guess what, guys? That goes for all ball. That goes for everything. So he won't
Rock
just be
those
on
balls,
here.
dude.
Yeah, he won't just be talking basketball. He won't just be talking hoops anymore with us. We're going to be talking birds and the NFL. We're going to be talking Phillies going to chase another World Series. We're going to be talking about everything when we get together. So if you want to see Brock talk more than just hoops, make sure you subscribe to both YouTube channels, and we're going to get it together rolling here soon.
We need the in person so we can show the swag around the room.
Oh yeah,
and show the swag. Yeah.
Listen.
We need it, bro.
This is anonymous. This is off the record. So whoever hears this, don't go run and tell on me.
Yeah, we're not live anymore.
I watched a group of Philadelphia. Some respect. Listen, respect their grind. I'll never. But I watched the group do a live stream earlier, and I couldn't listen to anything they were saying because I was too distracted by how little aura the group had. I'm like, this group has no aura, bro. I got no aura, bro. So what am I gonna do? Sit down and watch a group with no aura? But this group right here,
I hear that.
You can feel the aura. I'm not gonna lie. So, we got some encouraging comments. I hope everybody comes back. But this is more for you two. Let's get on point. Let's start this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's get it, bro.
Put a few brews back. Talk Philly sports, and we'll get into it, guys. But again, over 1:30 is still in here as we're wrapping up. Subscribe to the goddamn YouTube channels. Help us out. Help yourself out. For myself, for Brock Knows Ball, for DSM. Have a great rest of your night. We'll be talking to you guys soon.
Peace, everybody.